Hi, welcome to Movies Moment. Today we are going to explain a movie called Night of the Hunted. Spoilers ahead. Subscribe if you like this and catch us on the next one. Take care.
Alice is spending the night at a motel when, at 2 a.m., she's woken up by a call from her husband, Eric. She hurriedly rushes to the bathroom and starts brushing her teeth while they talk. Eric admits he's struggling to sleep, nervously anxious about their upcoming appointment with the fertility doctor. He mentions that the highway is closed, so Alice should leave earlier than planned. He then asks if her colleague and friend, John, who accompanied her to a medical conference, could give her a ride. Alice calmly assures him everything's fine and ends the call. Suddenly, John, the same John she's been secretly cheating on Eric with, walks into the bathroom. The lovers soon leave the motel together. On the road, Alice notices another persistent incoming call from Eric but decides not to answer. John expresses concern that Eric might be catching on to their affair, but Alice is confident that her husband has no idea. Soon, they approach the closed highway, and Alice impatiently suggests John take a different route. However, it turns out they're running low on gas. Alice frustratedly scolds John for being forgetful, as she had reminded him to fill up, but he insists he gassed up the night before. John pulls into the nearest gas station. While he starts pumping gas, Alice heads inside the store. At that moment, John realizes the gas tank is dangerously damaged, and fuel is leaking everywhere, but he doesn't notice. John glances around uneasily. The place seems deserted, and in the dim light, only a billboard with the cryptic message "Got Us Nowhere" stands out. Meanwhile, Alice pours herself a cup of coffee and casually exchanges texts with Eric, who is apologizing for something. She heads to the register to pay, but there's no cashier in sight. Leaving the money on the counter, Alice suddenly freezes in terror. There are splashes of red on the shelf behind the counter, right where the cashier should be. Panicked, Alice runs toward the exit, but before she can make it, someone shoots her in the shoulder. The gunfire continues relentlessly, but Alice manages to take cover behind the shelves. She calls out desperately for John, but he's oblivious, lost in his music with his eyes closed. Alice wraps her wound with her sweater and looks around, hoping to make a break for it. Suddenly, another shot is fired, this time from the direction of the billboard. Alice barely manages to dodge the bullet. She shouts for John again, but he remains unaware of the chaos unfolding inside the store. Realizing she's on her own, Alice decides to reach for her phone, which she dropped when the shooting began. She carefully inches past the shelves, but just as she extends her hand toward the phone, it's shot to pieces by the mysterious gunman. Writhing in pain, Alice spots something on the security footage. There's a back exit. Hope flickers inside her. Suddenly, she hears an unfamiliar voice calling out a name. Amelia. Alice glances around and notices a walkie-talkie on the counter. It could be her only chance for help, but the device is within the sniper's line of sight. Determined, Alice devises a plan. She tosses a bag of chips into the air, and the sniper immediately fires it. She throws another, and as the second shot rings out, she makes a dash for the walkie-talkie. Meanwhile, John notices that the gas gauge is dropping again, even though the car hasn't moved. Confused, he steps out and finally discovers the gas tank is leaking. Inside the store, Alice frantically speaks into the walkie-talkie, pleading with the man on the other end to call the police. But instead of helping, the man demands to know what happened to his wife, Amelia. At that moment, John finally enters the store to check on Alice. As soon as he spots her, the sniper fires, hitting him in the neck. John collapses to the floor, gasping for Alice to help him. But before she can react, the sniper fires again, killing him instantly. Shocked and horrified, Alice tries to regain her composure. The man on the walkie-talkie is still on the line, pressing her for answers. In her panic, she realizes she's dropped the device during the shooting. Using a nearby mop, she manages to drag it back toward her. Alice tells the man that someone has just killed her friend and is now trying to kill her too. She insists that there's no Amelia, and that she's alone in the store. Finally, the man agrees to call the police, and he tells Alice that help will arrive in 15 minutes. Relieved, she thanks him and asks him to stay on the line. He begins asking how she ended up at the gas station, but suddenly, his tone shifts. He coldly reveals that he was the one who shot John in the head. Horrified, Alice throws the walkie-talkie away, but the sniper's voice crackles through, ordering her to stand where he can see her. Paralyzed with fear, she doesn't move, and the sniper warns that he'll come in himself if she doesn't obey. Desperate, Alice notices a row of light switches on the wall. She begins throwing objects at them, hoping that if she can plunge the store into darkness, she might have a chance to escape the crazed gunman. But her aim is off, and nothing works. Then, she makes a discovery. The shelf she's hiding behind is on wheels. Summoning all her strength, she starts to push the shelf to create a barrier between her and the sniper. Noticing the movement, the sniper fires again, bullets ricocheting off the metal as she desperately moves the shelf forward. Despite everything, Alice manages to reach the light switches and plunge the store into darkness. Grabbing the walkie-talkie again, she frantically tries to contact someone else for help. But each time, she's met with the sniper's voice. He coldly informs her that, aside from him, her, and his wife Amelia, there's no one else around. That's when Alice notices a woman's body lifelessly lying under the counter. The sniper explains that he killed his wife because she cheated on him, and Alice realizes with growing horror that he knows about her own infidelity to Eric. Desperate, Alice searches Amelia's body, hoping to find a phone, but comes up empty. She then hopelessly attempts to use the store's landline, only to discover that all the wires have been cut. Next, she crawls over to John's body and activates the alarm on his car, praying someone will hear it. But the sniper silences it with a few well-aimed shots. Frustrated and terrified, Alice demands to know who he is and insists she's done nothing to it. But the sniper cryptically responds that she's wrong. Still in agonizing pain from her shoulder wound, Alice disinfects it with sanitizer, attempts to seal the edges with glue, and bandages it with a clean piece of cloth. Suddenly, a car pulls up to the gas station. A man named Doug enters, calling out for Amelia. Alice immediately screams at him to get down and pleads for him to call the police, but Doug says he left his phone in the car. Alice warns him that they can't leave because the sniper is still firing, but then it hits her. There hasn't been a single shot since Doug walked in. Suspicious, Alice eyes Doug and begins to suspect he might be the sniper. Grabbing a hammer, she readies herself to defend against a potential attack. Meanwhile, Doug crawls over to Amelia's body and begins to sob over her. Spotting the hammer in Alice's hands, Doug quickly assures her that he's not the sniper. Doug explains that he and Amelia had been dating and both worked at the gas station together. Alice tells him that Amelia was the sniper's wife, but Doug insists that Amelia was never married and that the sniper is lying. Alice remains skeptical, finding Doug's sudden appearance too suspicious and convenient. When Doug learns that Alice had been communicating with the sniper over the walkie-talkie, he suggests they contact him again and bluff, telling the sniper they've called the police. After all, the sniper doesn't know Doug left his phone in the locked car. Alice tries calling the sniper several times over the static-filled radio, but there's no response. Growing more suspicious of Doug, she challenges him to go and retrieve his phone to prove his innocence. Terrified, Doug refuses, not wanting to risk getting shot, but Alice insists, promising she'll distract the sniper long enough for Doug to grab his phone. Reluctantly, Doug finally agrees, his heart racing. He successfully makes it out of the store and cautiously reaches for his phone, but the moment his hand touches it, the sniper fires, hitting Doug unexpectedly. Soon, the sniper reaches out to Alice again over the radio. He accuses her of setting Doug up to be killed and demands that she confess the truth about herself. The sniper reveals that he knows Alice had been returning from a conference and works for a pharmaceutical company. He accuses her of using that as a front for trafficking illegal substances and claims that many people would want her dead for it. Alice denies this, explaining that she's just the vice president of marketing and focuses on social media, not manufacturing. But the sniper insists that's even worse, claiming she's the one pushing these substances on people through advertising. He bombards Alice with further accusations, stating she climbed the corporate ladder by falsely accusing her former boss of sexual harassment. According to the sniper, this accusation cost her boss his job, leaving him with a mortgage and a sick daughter he can no longer afford to care for. As the sniper rants, Alice stumbles upon a box labeled with the name Henry, containing personal items that seem to have been left behind. She figures Henry must have worked at the gas station before, but never returned to collect his belongings. Alice begins to suspect that Henry might be the sniper, a man consumed by resentment and bitterness toward the world. Then, she notices a display filled with umbrellas. While the sniper continues to rant about her sins, Alice opens several umbrellas, creating barriers to block his line of sight. It doesn't take long for the sniper to notice the makeshift barricade of umbrellas, and he immediately opens fire, riddling the umbrellas with bullets. Alice manages to dodge the bullets and frantically asks the stranger to stop. Alice insists that she hasn't taken anyone's life, but the shooter accusingly insists otherwise. He also claims that everyone is capable of killing for their own interests and accuses her again of not wanting to take responsibility for her actions. While the sniper is engrossed in his tense monologue again, Alice manages to sneak over to the emergency exit. The door is locked, and Alice desperately tries to break the lock with a fire extinguisher, but it doesn't work. Soon, another car pulls up to the gas station. A man tries to refuel but discovers that he has issues with his credit card. He gets back in his car and drives away, and the shooter doesn't touch him, probably because the man didn't suspect anything. Alice decides to change her tactic. She tells the sniper that he's not a bad person for letting the man go. She also admits that she and her husband are trying to conceive a child, hoping that this will convince the sniper to leave her alone. But the mysterious stranger just reproaches her again for driving around at night with her lover. He believes she would make a terrible mother because she can't be faithful. The sniper suggests that Alice has had a couple of abortions in the past, but she protests, saying she simply can't have children. Alice confesses that she spent her whole life trying to please men and that her affair isn't because she's in love, but because she's in pain. Still, she loves her husband very much. Suddenly, she's interrupted by an approaching police car. Alice feels a glimmer of hope for rescue, but the cops drive right past, ignoring the gas station. The shooter also gets distracted by the police and loses sight of Alice. He asks where she's gone, and in the meantime, Alice manages to run outside and reach John's car. However, as soon as she tries to open the door, the sniper starts shooting at the car. Alice is forced to run back into the store, but on her way, she gets hit again, this time in the thigh. Writhing in pain, she crawls deeper into the store and loses consciousness, while the sniper declares that she won't be able to escape. After a while, Alice comes to. She tends to her new wound and bandages it. while the sniper continues his monologue about human cruelty. Then Alice finds a blade and, wrapping it in cloth, tries to saw through the lock on the emergency door. However, she has no luck and accidentally cuts her own hand. Alice grabs the radio again and urgently says that her death won't help him at all. Suddenly, she addresses him by the name Henry and sympathetically asks if he really lost his job and his child. But after a brief pause, the sniper coldly asks, "Who's Henry?" Abruptly, another car pulls up to the gas station. An elderly man gets out and suddenly discovers Doug's body. Alice desperately pounds on the window, trying to signal him to hide and call the police, but at that moment, the sniper mercilessly shoots the man. His wife rushes out of the car, but she meets the same fate. The sniper continues talking and tells the stunned Alice that they're alike and that those are the same genes she'll pass on to her future child if she can have one. Furious, Alice declares that's exactly why she doesn't want to have kids, so they won't turn out like him, cowards hiding in the dark and shooting innocent people. Alice says this while standing helplessly in the doorway, and then she notices that in the car where the elderly couple just got out, there's a girl named Cindy. Cindy innocently runs to her grandmother and grandfather, but Alice quickly writes a note on paper towels, desperately telling her to go back to the car. Alice frantically pleads with the sniper to spare the girl's life, but he coldly offers to trade her life for Cindy's. Alice agrees because that's the only way she can save an innocent life. The sniper demands that she make the girl move far away from the gas station and then come out into the light herself. Alice tells Cindy to run toward the road, but the girl gets scared and runs back into the store. Realizing that the girl is now trapped, Alice locks the front door and tries to cut the lock on the emergency exit again. This time, she succeeds, but at that moment, the mysterious shooter appears from behind a billboard and heads toward the store. Alice and Cindy find themselves in a storage room, but they discover there's another gate that's also locked. Alice hides Cindy under the stairs and arms herself with makeshift weapons, preparing to confront the sniper. Soon, the sniper in a black mask enters the store. He asks Alice who she thinks he is. Someone hired by her husband? Perhaps an unjustly fired colleague? Or maybe a disgruntled subordinate? Or is he someone whose life she ruined with her advertisements for medications? In the meantime, he nearly spots Alice, but she manages to ambush the sniper and stab him in the back with a metal rod. However, the sniper still has the strength to fight back, and a struggle ensues. Alice tries to rip the mask off his face, but he shoots her again, and she falls to the floor. Cindy watches the horrifying scene unfold, and soon the sniper finds her. He opens the gate and prepares to remove his mask, assuring the girl that she has nothing to fear anymore. But just then, Alice swiftly appears behind him. She strikes him brutally with the fire extinguisher and then tries again to see his face. However, the sniper violently starts to resist, and she pushes his head under a hydraulic press. As a result, the sniper's head is turned into mush, leaving his identity horrifyingly unknown. Meanwhile, morning arrives. Alice completely loses her strength after the agonizing third gunshot wound to her abdomen, and a frightened Cindy runs out of the store and onto the road, becoming the sole survivor of this massacre.